Hey everybody, hope you guys are healthy and safe. So I have another exciting new device here on me. This is the Leica Leitz Phone 1. So this is the very first smartphone that's self-branded by Leica, the famous German camera maker. Now apologies to my German viewers if I've mispronounced the word Leitz. I'm not sure if it's Leitz or Leitz. Now for those of you who don't know, Leitz or Leitz is actually Leica's original name. It's named after Leica's founder, Ernest Leitz, in Germany, like 1869. Let's start with the unboxing of this phone. So this is mostly a bare bones packaging. When you open up the box, you have a paper and the phone is right there. You take the phone out and you flip it around and right away you see the unique design with a camera lens. But we'll put the phone aside really quick and just look at the rest of the packaging. So you have a SIM ejector tool here. You have a data transfer dongle plug adapter thing. You have some papers and instructions, and then right here you have a pretty nice looking phone case. But interestingly, that is it. You don't get a charging brick or charging cable with this phone. The phone case fits into the phone very nicely. You can put it on even when the camera cap is on. Although to be honest, if I were to use this phone as my daily driver, I would not put a case on it because I really like the look of this phone. It's so sleek, so sexy. Now even though the Leitz Phone 1 is Leica's very first self-branded phone, Leica's pretty honest in admitting that it did not make the phone itself, it only designed the look of the phone. Otherwise, this phone is really just a repackaged Sharp Aquos R6, which I covered a few weeks ago. If you're interested in checking out more about that phone, check out the video in the link or up here. If I remember to put it up here, I may forget. But anyway, even though this is recycled hardware from the Sharp Aquos R6, that's not a bad thing because the Sharp Aquos R6 had really damn good, impressive cutting edge hardware. In fact, when I tested the Sharp Aquos R6, I wrote down all the cutting edge specs right here. Apologies for my ugly handwriting, but basically, if I read off of this, all that will apply to this phone, the Leica Leitz Phone 1. So first, the main event, this camera module. It houses a 1-inch Leica camera, 1-inch sensor, the largest image sensor in the industry right now, beating the previous champion, the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra. It is a 20 megapixel camera with an f1.9 aperture with a focal length equivalent of 19mm. Now if you're thinking 19mm is kind of wide for a camera lens, that's because this phone doesn't have an ultra-wide camera or a zoom camera. It uses one camera for everything. So by default, the focal length is 19mm, which is a little bit wide. But then when you're shooting in 1x mode, which is the standard mode, it's actually cropped in a little bit at 24mm. And then when you jump up to 2x zoom, that's 35mm. And obviously it is just digital zoom. Let's continue reading the specs. So you flip it around the front, you have a 6.67 inch IGZO OLED panel with a refresh rate up to 240 Hz. It varies between 1 Hz and 240 Hz, and needless to say, animations are super smooth. Around the front, this little hole puncher, you have a 12 megapixel selfie camera. Inside, you have a Snapdragon 888 with a 5,000 mAh battery, and the phone's also rated IP68 water resistance, and you get stereo speakers. However, there is no wireless charging. Okay, you know we gotta do our usual K-pop speaker test, so here we go. So yeah, speakers are good. Now, like I said, I really like the look of this phone, but about the in-hand feel, I'm a little bit torn. And it's mostly because of this back side. So I think this phone looks really good around the back, but when you touch it, this feels a little bit weird. It's not glass. Instead, it feels a little bit grippy, but it feels a little plasticky. Like, I don't think it's plastic. I'm pretty sure it's not because this phone is relatively expensive. I think this is like some type of textured rubber. So it does give you a lot of grip, but it doesn't feel as nice as glass or ceramic or even aluminum. But at least the frame and chassis is aluminum and it looks and feels very nice. It's cold to the touch, it's very sturdy. And on the side, there's these textured ribbons that allows you to hold on to the phone a little bit easier because there's actually not a lot to hold on to. At the bottom, you do have a headphone jack, so that's good news for a lot of you guys out there. Okay, now looking at software, the phone runs Android 11 with a software skin that kind of resembles the software skin seen in the Sharp Arcos R6, except there's subtle changes here and there. So the first thing you'll notice right out of the box is there's a widget built onto the home screen, and it's a Leica widget that shows off photos taken with a Leica camera. So these cycle through every hour or so, but you can cycle through photos yourself. Now the other software changes when you jump into the camera app. There's a new mode called Leitz mode. Let me see if I can do this while not looking at the phone. I'm having trouble doing it. There. So it's called Leitz mode, and it's basically a black and white shooting mode, just like classic Leica cameras. And I've been playing around with this, taking pictures outside. The black and white photos do look pretty moody. You know, it has a more of an analog, organic vibe than the heavily digitalized photos. And that's really the vibe I get from this camera. Now, I'm not gonna do too much of a camera testing in this video because I already covered this camera when I did the Sharp Arcos R6. But the long story short version is that because of the image sensor is so large, you have a very shallow depth of field. So that means when you're taking pictures, you get really nice, natural, creamy bokeh in the background. You don't even have to turn on portrait mode anymore. You just need to put something in front of your camera and you're gonna get nice subject separation from the background. That little nice, creamy little blur. Now, if you shoot with the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra, which also has a really large image sensor, you're gonna get similar natural bokeh. But if you shoot with an iPhone 12 Pro Max, which has a much smaller image sensor, then you will see the photos look a little bit more flat. There's not that much separation between the subject and background. There's not that blur. And for the most part, I took a lot of photos side by side with the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Leica Leitz Phone 1. And you see that the iPhone 12 Pro Max generally handles dynamic range better, but then photos look a little bit over-processed and digitalized. The Leica camera may not have the greatest dynamic range, but you actually get a photo that's quite organic. Now, to be honest, I think for most people, they would prefer the iPhone 12 Pro Max's image or image capture with the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra because colors just pop a little bit more. You know, you don't have to think. You can just shoot against backlight and the photo will come out perfectly balanced because Apple and Xiaomi, just like Samsung and Huawei, have really, really good post-image software processing. HDR, all that, they kick in really well. Leica, or I guess Sharp, don't have that software technology. So sometimes if you shoot against backlight, you'll get a shot that's not properly exposed. But some people like that. It looks more natural. It feels like you're shooting with a real camera. Now overall, am I saying the Leica Leitz Phone 1's camera is better than the iPhone 12 Pro Max's camera or the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra? I would say no. I think to most normal people, average consumer, they would still have a better time shooting with iPhone 12 Pro Max. Shutter speed is a little bit faster, colors pop a little bit more, so they're more ready for Instagram, and they don't have to think. You can point at anything, you can get proper exposure. You can't get that with this phone. Also, there's no real zoom lens here, so any zoom is digital and you can only max out to 6 times zoom. As for video performance, you're looking at 4K footage right here. 4K 30, I think it looks pretty good. Stabilization looks pretty fluid, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max's video is still a little bit more stable and finds dynamic range a little bit better too. Oh, one more hardware thing I forgot to mention. This phone uses Qualcomm's new 3D Ultra Max fingerprint sensor. It's an ultrasonic sensor, but the scanning area is much larger than the scanning area used in Samsung's flagship phones. And the fingerprint sensor seems also faster. I mean, when I'm registering my fingerprint, you only have to press your thumb on it once and it's already finished registered. If you use an in-display fingerprint sensor, you know that you usually have to keep pressing your thumb on it over and over like 10, 12 times. Here, one press and it's done. And you can also use two-finger authentication, meaning you need 2 separate prints to unlock the phone. Now, you might be wondering, that's overkill. Who needs that? Well, you don't know. Maybe some people want more security for the phone. Or maybe a good example I can think of is, let's say a couple, a husband and wife, want to share a phone with all the sensitive data. They want to store all their secrets in this phone, but they want to make sure both people are present to be able to access the data. That would be useful. Each of them scan the thumb and then that means the husband would not be able to unlock the phone without the wife, or vice versa. Now the Leica Leitz Phone 1 is quite pricey. It's selling in Japan for about 1,700 US dollars. Now, as you probably know, I did not get this phone from Leica or Sharp. I was able to get my hand on this phone thanks to Trinity Electronics. They are Hong Kong's best phone importer, and they ship worldwide too. So if you're interested in buying this phone, contact Trinity Electronics. I'll have the link in the description below, and they can send it to you wherever you're at. Mr. Mobile actually purchased the Xiaomi Mi Mix Fold from Trinity on my recommendation. So yeah, that's about it for this hands-on of the Leica Leitz Phone 1. I think this is a really exciting phone. That's obviously not for the average consumer, for mainstream users. This is a very good niche enthusiast phone. And to be honest, if you're really heavy into Leica cameras, you are a niche enthusiast. So once again, thank you to Trinity Electronics for loaning me this phone. That's it for now. I'm gonna have a lot more content coming up. I'm getting my hands on the Honor Magic 3 and the Galaxy Z Fold 3 and Z Flip 3 sometime in the next couple of weeks. So if you're interested in keeping up to date with all the latest smartphones, including really obscure ones that a lot of people can't get their hands on, please consider subscribing to this channel or follow me on Instagram at Ben's Gadget Reviews. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.